Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Forthright Solution Spotlight Series. I'm Kristen from Forthright, and we are thankful for your time today. Every month, we showcase a different solution from our trusted technology partners that solves a challenge or problem we're seeing in the industry. This month, we're featuring Star2Star. If you have any questions at any point during this webinar, please type your questions into the chat box, and if we can't answer them right away, we do have some time saved at the end for questions. And everyone will be getting free lunch courtesy of Star2Star for attending today. We'll be emailing you information on how to access your Grubhub credits after the webinar. If you don't see an email from me by the end of the day tomorrow, please contact me at marketing@forthright.com. Okay, let's get this show started. I'd like to just introduce today's headliners. We have Steve from Forthright and Jordan from Star2Star. And we have Jeff available too if there's any questions. But before we dive into all the great information we have today, I would like to kind of see where everyone stands. And we have a few quick polls that if everyone could answer. Let me get the first one started. So here is the first one. Do you find you're switching from switching between Teams or Zoom conferencing to your work phone? Do you think that's a hassle or disruptive? Okay, looks like everybody's locked in their votes. I'm going to go ahead and close that and share the screen. Looks like most people are feeling kind of frustrated with that, going between the two. So, okay, next poll. Okay, when your users work from home, how do you provide access to telephony services? There's a few options there. And looks like the first two options are the most popular. Oh yeah, we had a 50-50 split between the first two there. Okay.
I believe it.
All right, I'm gonna close that one out. And it looks like the VoIP soft phone wins by a little tiny bit. So, okay. And then the last question is, my corporate phone system is, and then there's a couple options of how to describe your current situation. Looks like it's pretty evenly split except for the integrated only with desk phone, a desktop. So, okay. So, all right, and now I'm going to hand the mic over to Steve from Forthright to talk a little bit about what we do.
Thanks, Kristen. That was a very interesting poll. We'll definitely get into that. Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to start by thanking you for joining us today. And today's spotlight, I definitely think is going to be very informative for the audience that we have today. Looks like you guys are seeing what we're seeing and what we've experienced through the last year or so as well. I'm Steve Zoberg, CEO at Forthright. And for those of you who have joined us but haven't worked with Forthright before, I wanted to give you a quick 2-minute intro into Forthright. So we've been helping our clients optimize their application delivery for literally decades. And for us, our focus is more than just about tools and technology. I know we all talk about that a lot, but it's really how do we supercharge your end users' experiences. And over the last several years, we've built our practice around being user-centric in everything we do. It's this constant pursuit we have. And what that means for us is that our passion is not just centered around what tools or products or even processes that might be optimal for us or for IT in general, but rather we put ourselves in your shoes and we pay very close attention to the experiences and the outcomes of your end user population, and especially the ones that are directly impacted by adopting specific solutions and technologies. So Forthright has 6 core service offerings that focus on helping our clients deliver just that, which is consistent and exceptional user experiences. So if you're interested in finding out how we do this, please reach out to us, call our office, send us a quick note at success@forthright.com. We'd love to talk to you about that a little further. So on to today's spotlight conversation. It's all about the connected workspace today and why application integration plays such a huge factor in delivering an exceptional experience. So we have Jordan Morales at Star2Star, who's a solution engineer, joining us today, and he's going to share his perspective on what a connected workspace is and why third-party integration options are so important to actually making this a reality. So now that I've set the stage, I'm going to kind of hand it over to Jordan to get started, which, by the way, Jordan, I love this picture you have because your hair does not look like that anymore. I'm losing hair, you're gaining hair. That's it's fantastic.
Funnily enough, I actually thought the same thing to myself, and unfortunately, it looks a little messy. I'll partly blame it on COVID and also my genetics because I have incredibly curly hair. So, yeah, that's just the way the cookie crumbles with me.
Fantastic. So let's get started.
Perfect. And can everyone see my screen? Perfect. All right, thanks for that intro, Steve, and I appreciate the opportunity here to be able to talk with some of your existing customers and potentially, new potential customers who don't really understand or haven't, fully utilized some of the services that Forthright can offer. So today, primarily we're going to be talking, as Steve said, about the connected workspace and also about how integrations really can drive, productivity and, overall business gains. But I also like to essentially describe the value that comes from prioritizing the end user and not necessarily things like business processes, similar to what Steve said, right? The end user is the primary focus point for a lot of the solutions that businesses deploy, and I think it's really important to talk about that user experience. First, we're going to get into just a little bit about, who Star2Star is and, perhaps some of the reasons why Forthright decided that we're a good, vendor to be able to partner with. So, I'm not going to go through all of these, but I just want to call out some major points for our business. We are traditionally a unified communications as a service organization. We've been doing that for the last 14 years, but we've perpetually evolved our solution offering, and we include things like contact center as a service, video meeting platforms, and more recently, Connected Workspace, more commonly known as a desktop as a service offering. So, some of the things that we pride ourselves on are our 5.9 uptime guarantee for all of our voice services. We have over 60,000 customers with millions of users across the United States. And really what we pride ourselves on is 99.4% customer retention. Not only does that give us insight into, some of the changes in the markets as we grow with our customers, but it's also just an illustration of, how dedicated we are to the customer experience, the end user experience, similar to what Forthright is. And it just lends to our overall success over the last decade and a half. Quickly, I just wanted to touch on some of our marquee customer base, just to illustrate, some of the industries that we play in and also some of the, typical business challenges that we solve, right? We have customers within real estate, not-for-profits, education, finance, retail, healthcare, fast-moving consumer goods. We have a wide range of organizations, as you, might have been able to derive from the 60,000 plus customers that we have across the United States. But we don't really focus on one particular vertical or market segment, right? So we have, chances are we have a solution that can add value to your business and really simplify and optimize workflows for your end users, which again is why we're talking today. So quickly, I just want to, set the stage with, a general theme of what we're going to be talking about today, and that is a shift to the cloud, right? And this is illustrated in the general market trends of cloud adoption. So 50% increase in worldwide spending, over the last year or really multiple years has been due to COVID-19, right? So many businesses, they had to quickly work from home and they quickly adopted cloud technologies. This was sort of a trend that we could predict was going to happen just by the benefits and the value associated with cloud technologies, but these things were accelerated significantly due to COVID-19. And so, cloud technology is sort of leaking into different aspects of and many organizations' IT strategy. Initially it might have just been, hey, let's look at infrastructure as a service, some of those value propositions from cloud. But now, and over the last 14 or so years that Star2Star has been around, there's more ways that cloud can impact your business. One of those being, VoIP communications, contact center, and even, things like desktop as a service. So outside the context of COVID, because hopefully this thing isn't going to go on forever, and there was also a trend prior to COVID impacting a lot of businesses, and that was 18.4% adoption of cloud technology was the growth rate projected for 2021, and ultimately the size of the market is increasing as well. So I'm not saying these things to make you feel left out or to make you feel like you have to invest in certain things, right? But it helps to paint a picture of where technology is heading, and it lends to the value that organizations get out of cloud technology, and it provides a good opportunity for us to talk about some of the value that we can provide, as well as Forthright. So next thing that I wanted to talk about is our Microsoft Teams integration, right? So Microsoft, it's certainly a cloud service. You can run a client locally, but it's one of our more valued and most valued integrations, and it lends to the connectivity between employees and between customers or business partners and employees. It is a central hub that keeps users connected regardless of their job function, whether it's sales, procurement, management, engineering, development, professional services. There's a lot of value to be had from leveraging Microsoft Teams, and I'm sure a lot of Forthright's customers are leveraging it, and some of the people on this call probably leverage it within their IT strategy and their collaboration strategy. But the benefit of leveraging Microsoft Teams is that it has technologies that can be integrated with Star2Star's portfolio. One of those being is the call routing feature, or as it's commonly called, Microsoft Teams Direct Routing. And what we do here is we essentially integrate with Microsoft Teams to provide the calling services or the telephony services, the dial tone within the context of that application that you use, the Microsoft Teams client. You have things like contacts, speed dials. You can check your voicemail. You can do voicemail transcription, and you can call outbound from any sort of number, right? It can be representative of a business. It can come from a particular cost center within your organization. There's lots of flexibility, and it runs all over our highly available backbone that supports 5 nines of availability. That has 5 nines guarantee. So ultimately, we recognize, Star2Star recognizes that there's these applications that are being leveraged for very critical business functions out there, collaboration between teams, quick decision making. And we recognize that this is used, and we want to be able to add value into that core application. Hence why we've integrated our voice services. So now you don't have to switch between, your hard phone, as we discovered in that initial poll. You don't have to switch between your hard phone or your cell phone and Microsoft Teams to be able to engage with business partners or peers. It's all from this central location. And so, we have quite a few customers leveraging this solution, and one of them actually being Forthright. So I just wanted to quickly pass it back to you, Steve, to see, what your perception of the Microsoft Teams integration is, how it's impacted your business, and, what maybe prompted you to evaluate that solution initially.
Thanks, Jordan. It actually was pretty dramatic. I would say that for starters, it's not just the calling, the in and outbound calling that occurs, it's all of the routing that you typically have in a regular telephony system. So if you have queues or ring groups or hunt groups or follow me, find me types of situations, or you want to hit people at various extensions, Teams works literally just like a regular physical phone. So if I back up before COVID, we were using voice over IP in the cloud. So we already made that switch, and our desktop's been in the cloud. But we were reliant on physical phones. And our DR plan for things like hurricanes or storms, weather events, you bring the phone home and you plug it in and it works. And I remember when COVID started, we were kind of getting ready to be able to work remotely. We recognized it wasn't, again, just technology. Obviously, your culture and your processes start to change. So we had to work through that. So we would actually have planning days where people would go home and take their physical home with them. And, of course, some of them, we found out that it didn't actually work the way it's supposed to, or it did work, but they really didn't have a desk space for that extra phone because they only had space for a laptop, and it really wasn't the greatest situation. And then I had people literally taking their phones to and from work, to the point where I started, provisioning additional phones so you can keep a phone home and have one at work. And this was all before Teams integration. What's amazing is that once we once we onboarded and moved our systems over to Star2Star and then integrated it in with Teams, well, the physical phones in most cases have gone away. The phone behind me literally just sits there, and I guess it's a nice thing if my computer's off, but then of course Teams is running on my mobile devices, and therefore if somebody calls me, I never have to worry about losing the call. Or if there's a hunt group, maybe we have a service desk obviously, and if calls come in that are critical and they get escalated up, I want to know that I'm going to hear that, and I have the ability of bringing all that in through Teams. So it's really nice. And I will tell you that we attempted with soft clients early on, and soft clients in general, because they're not integrated, they're not aware of what else you're doing. So maybe you're in a Teams meeting and all of a sudden you get a call and your VoIP client starts to ring in the middle of the call that you're on. So that's very disruptive. Or it rings right in your ears, it's super loud versus using the tones that you might have in Teams. So that was kind of a challenge. I like the fact that Teams is aware of whether I'm in a conference, whether I'm in a phone call, and then of course I can set various do not disturbs or voicemail settings or whatnot. So it's been a big deal. And then of course we've got people that we've hired all over the country and even out of the country since COVID. We've definitely been expanding our footprint, and knowing that I can just hit people up with their extension and it's going to follow them on whatever device they have, even people out of the country, because it's not long distance calling if you're going through Teams, for an example. I know that that's my core client, right? Everything that we do is running through Teams, and it makes it very, very easy to reach everybody, even people on the service desk that I can route directly through extension dialing. So that's really nice. Our contact center deployment is fantastic, and at this point, we're in a place where when we hire new staff, I literally send them login information, set up their 2FA, and they're done. They can log in with their own computer. They've got their virtual desktop. They've got their telephony system. Sometimes we'll send them some nice headphones, and that's it. I don't need to provision a phone. I don't need to send it out there or provide any kind of support for the phone. And that's been a really nice thing because I can get people working on day one.
Yeah, I think you're sort of the epitome, or Forthright's the epitome of the value that can be provided with this Teams integration. You were regularly using Teams prior to the adoption of Star2Star and the Teams integration, and so you quickly realized the benefit of just having everything in a central location. And I'm guessing it helped you improve your business processes that were sort of just perceived as standard before, but as the engineers always say, just because we do it one way in the past doesn't mean we always have to do it that way in the future.
Right.
Hopefully you got some operational benefits out of that too.
Sure, it simplified everything, right? Even less training, because it's already a tool that we use. So, yeah, we're definitely a big fan. We like to drink our own champagne, and this was definitely something we jumped on, and I was very happy that we did. Yeah, very
Awesome.
much so.
And sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, and also you brought up another technology that you're actually currently leveraging right now, and that's our contact center. So just to quickly talk about some of the bells and the whistles that this product has, but really it does integrate directly into our core voice services, right? So you said one of the primary value adds that you got out of leveraging the Microsoft Teams integration was all the back-end routing that you would get from a traditional phone system, but now allows the delivery of calls in the same way, in the same routing methods that you had before, and now delivers those calls to either Microsoft Teams, or in this case, now that you're leveraging the contact center as well, it delivers those calls immediately to contact center as well for those service desks that you have in order to to deliver the quality of service to your customers. So do you want to just talk a little bit about how you're leveraging contact center and maybe how it integrates with your overall voice and communications strategy?
Sure. It's added a lot in not just providing ring groups or hunt groups, because I think we had that initially, and most telephony systems can do that. It's really more of tracking how we're doing from an SLA perspective of how fast we're answering calls, customer satisfaction. So what happens is each one of our clients have a dedicated DID, or a direct inbound dial number. They call their support desk, they get routed to a very specific pod that understands their account, so we can track all of that. And if they need to route calls to a different pod, or if they need to escalate up to engineering or whatnot, while they're working in a completely different system, the integration allows all of our extensions to still work. So we can move calls around, make sure that we're adding people in or transferring calls as needed. And I think the other thing that both products actually provided, and this was another thing that I forgot to mention, but it kind of reminded me, is I think with all of us working from home, we're tending to spend more time in front of the computer, but it's not necessarily 9 to 5, right? So we're starting earlier, we're working later, but sometimes you'll have interruptions or breaks throughout the day. And having a mobile platform that is not tied to a physical device is a big deal too. And both of these solutions provided that, so I can give my staff the flexibility that they're not chained to the computer all day. They can still service our customers, but they can get up, go around, leave, and as long as they are within reach of a computer, or they can route the call to somebody who is, they can still receive the inbound call. And again, our clients are not calling someone's cell phone, they're calling the dedicated number that's been assigned and set up for them. But these applications are accessible on any device, which is really nice. So that's changed the way we operate quite a bit, because people felt like sometimes they couldn't get up and even break for lunch because they were concerned, they were waiting for a call, and sometimes the call doesn't come in. But because you now have this integration and you have like your contact center, which is all web driven, any device, you could just take it with you and log in and still have access to the inbound or the outbound calling that you need.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of value to be had from a pure SaaS solution in any way, shape, or form, right? Whether it's communications or some other sort of technology that's critical to how a business operates. It certainly provides a lot of flexibility, and there's operational and financial benefits from those things as well, right? You don't necessarily have to ship out a computer with pre-installed software. You can just say, hey, here's your login credentials, and have a nice day. Here's some training material and things, of course, as well, which I think has been particularly important for some of the international people that you have supporting your organization.
Well, I think contact centers too. I mean, we're not a contact center, although we use the technology, but we have many clients that are. And most contact centers that we work with, everything is built off of physical hardware that's sitting in a facility, and things like call recording have dependencies on infrastructure that's there. And so it doesn't work remotely, and that becomes obviously a challenge, especially in regulated industries. And when I think about the capabilities that we have for the call recording, for the whispering, for the barging in, all of that is cloud-based because it's as a service. There is no infrastructure that we had to set up, which really was perfect because, let's face it, there's not a whole lot of people in the office to maintain any infrastructure anyway. So our entire footprint from everything we do is in the cloud at this point. It also allowed us to set up our networks with zero trust, and we don't really worry about security issues because we're protecting the endpoints and everything's running in the cloud, so there's no infrastructure I have to actually worry about. Yeah, it's very empowering. I think that if many call centers and contact centers were aware that they could leverage technology like this, they probably would rethink some of the architecture they currently have, because it would provide them so much more flexibility than what they currently have, including the fact that you've got to ship out a lot of these phones and set up VPNs, for example, from your house, so you can connect in, and so the phone will actually work and the traffic gets routed the right way, and we don't worry about any of that.
Yeah, I mean, it was only up until a couple of years ago that every time I thought of a contact center or call center, I would think of just a big office building in some big city that's just hundreds of people on a phone call at at any given time. And that's still sort of what I think of when, I call Frontier if I'm having an internet outage or something like that. I sort of have this picture in my head of who I might be talking to, right? And this type of technology totally changes that landscape. It could be, someone sitting in their slippers at home that's, fielding calls now, helping me out, rather than someone who's, had to drive an hour to the office, for example. Cool.
Yeah. So let me ask you this.
Sure.
We used to be a Slack company. We use Slack a lot. Definitely love that product. But the integration that we got with Teams definitely drove us in that direction. Probably about 2.5, 3 years ago. There's not a single person that works at Forthright that doesn't use Teams not only every day, but literally every hour. It's part of our operations, how we manage projects, how we manage war rooms and whatnot. But I understand that not everybody uses Office 365, right? There's other platforms out there. And so how does Star2Star handle something like that if you're not a Teams user per se?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, and believe it or not, that's actually on the next slide. So I'm gonna move on and talk about our solution, sort of our response to that question, Steve. So I appreciate you asking that. And that's our TeamHub solution, right? And the core pillar of TeamHub is that we recognize there's sort of a marriage between both collaboration and communication, and it's a very gray area in which when you're communicating or collaborating with someone, which one sort of is it, right? And I typically like to think that collaboration is usually internally focused, whereas communication is usually externally focused from an organization perspective. So and because not everybody uses Teams, but still wants to benefit from the ability to integrate multiple technologies, whether it's systems of record or just simplify workflows, that's really a pillar that we've taken in our development of this TeamHub product. And essentially, this platform, it functions in many of the same ways that Microsoft Teams and Slack function, right? It has collaboration tools, aka chat groups, war rooms, as you like to term it. It has file sharing capabilities. But it does more than just allow collaboration. It allows communication between entities, both internal and external. So it has an embedded soft phone for taking and making calls, essentially identically functional to the Microsoft Teams direct routing integration. You can send SMSs, you can send MMSs, you can do e-faxes, you can check your voicemail, you can you can save certain files in certain repositories, whether it's OneDrive or Google Docs, whatever it may be. So yeah, we do have a response to that, and we recognize not everybody is a Microsoft shop, but everybody depends on some sort of collaboration and communication tool to help drive their business and to help optimize the way that a business functions. So our response to that is TeamHub, and it doesn't really end there, because we do have this overarching integration philosophy that goes, it includes our Microsoft Teams direct routing integration. It includes contact center integrating with our core voice services, as well as being able to, integrate to professional service management technologies or CRMs. But or even integrate certain applications and certain functions within TeamHub, like mass communications or mass notifications, for example. So this whole time we've sort of been talking about the combination of modalities of communication and collaboration, whether it's texting, voice, chat, document sharing, in a single platform to help simplify the end user experience and to get those productivity gains for an organization, for example, like a contact center or a support organization being able to collaborate. But all business processes really involve some sort of communication, whether it's between people or whether it's between systems and applications. So this is why I wanted to call out really our core pillar of our development strategy, which is our integration capabilities. Very, very few business processes involve the use of a single application. Like, you don't just make a presentation and then keep it on your computer. You share it with others, you email it out, you leverage a video meeting platform to be able to collaborate about the contents of that presentation. So even something as simple as making a presentation, that workflow is ultimately going to include 3, 4, 5 different applications in order to perform that business function, right? So Star2Star, as the owners of our own application stack or technology stack, we have a strong focus on really simplifying those business processes by integrating technologies, whether that's Teams, whether that's contact center, whether it's TeamHub, or some other technologies that we're going to talk about in just a moment. But examples of that, of integrations between our technologies and others, include things like click to dial for CRMs, simplifying that business process. You're going to have to be switching between a CRM and your hard phone, and maybe you want to be able to ping someone about a new sales call that you're going to be jumping on, or ping your sales engineer, for example. You might also want to be able to integrate, sales and support technologies like our contact center or our voice services, integrating those directly into CRMs and call pops or automatic call logs, so that you can get the most accurate sales data about, hey, how many people are making, 10 calls a day versus 20 calls a day. These examples sort of underpin the overall philosophy of our API integration capabilities between our core voice services, the rest of our product portfolio, and some of these core, productivity platforms like Teams or TeamHub. So, the premise here, really, the underpinning philosophy is we want to help customers, just like Forthright, simplify business processes and meet the needs of the customers, trying to optimize their operations and ultimately simplify the workflows for those end users. So this is sort of a pillar of our development philosophy, and it really drives our product strategy. And here's another view of some of the applications that we can integrate with, that include very common applications like Salesforce and Zoho for maximizing the productivity of a sales organization, placing outbound, inbound calls. How do we get as accurate as possible data into those applications so our customers can have the business intelligence and make adjustments day in and day out around how they're conducting their sales efforts, or whether or not certain sales strategies are adequate or not. Even things like SQL Server integrations for creating distribution lists when sending out mass notifications via text or email. Integrating with Calendly to automatically have say a Sangoma meet populate in your calendar for a meeting with a new hire or an interview candidate, or even a business partner that wants to speak to you, as soon as you can, right? And integrating with file sharing technologies like OneDrive and Google Drive for sharing files simply if you're not a Microsoft Teams shop, for example, as we've just discussed. So really the purpose here is to illustrate the attention that we pay to integrating technologies and simplifying standard and really repeatable tasks for increasing efficiency and providing a better user experience, which ultimately adds value to the business, right? And I'm talking about these integrations, but it even goes back to something as simple as having a SaaS version of a contact center, right? That provides a better and more simple user experience for someone than a new hire that joins a team and now they have all this equipment that they need to put in at their home, or only only allowing those people to be able to work from the office, for example. So yeah, this is a really common theme, and we've really touched upon it in each of the different technologies that we've spoken about. But that's more from an integration perspective, but there's also the concept of automating tasks, right? And integration could really be perceived as automating communications between systems, right? But there's also just regular tasks that can be automated without so much integration talk, so to speak. So we recognize that there's certain communication channels that are relied upon throughout organizations, whether it's urgent notifications in the event of an emergency, or if it's a mass marketing notification going to a distribution list of people who subscribe to services on your website. It might even be employee alerts for, hey, there's lunch in the lunchroom today, or hey, we have a guest speaker coming to talk about how technology is impacting the adoption of new products and services, right? So there's the aspect of integrating between applications, but there's also the aspect of simplifying workflows that don't have so much technology involved, but can certainly be simplified to add value to the overall business and just simplify things. Something as simple as reaching out to a customer base. So Steve, did you have anything to add around some of the last couple of things that I was just discussing?
I did. I like I like and we really enjoy the integration options for all of those different players and the way you guys handle it, because I think in today's world, almost all these applications allow you to create automations and scripts, and you can sometimes create certain integrations, but each application handles it differently. And now from a management perspective, it becomes really difficult to manage. and you have to train people on multiple different ways of integration. And of course, that means that you're more likely to have security issues because of human error. Where if you're using a platform like what you guys have built, it kind of streamlines that process. And it means that I can now focus all the attention and training in one area and use the same methodologies and tools to do my integration. And your list just continues growing, which is fantastic. And then you have your professional services organization that can step in and help as well. So it's been a very powerful platform for us. And I think that that adds to the story of what everybody needs today, as we're all trying to leverage the different tools to make our jobs easier and to be more productive. And there's just always 10 different ways of doing something, right? They're just not always optimal. So we're always looking for multipliers or ways that we can streamline what we're doing and try to look through the 10 different ways and figure out, well, what are the top 3 or 4, and let's figure out what is the most optimal way and go in that direction. Standardization is a big deal, and reducing the amount of tools that you use is definitely a big part of that. So
yeah, well,
big fans.
the interesting thing about, and I'm thinking of this not as somebody who drinks the Kool-Aid, but just from a general market trend perspective, the interesting thing about our integration platform is that, there's a reason why communications and copper lines have been around since the late 1800s, right? Communications is at the core of a lot of what people do day to day, whether that's business, whether that's engaging with their family, friends, their broader network. Communication and collaboration are at the core of a lot of what people do. It's how we, exchange ideas and things, right? And, from a philosophical perspective, that gets carried through into business processes, right? So having an integration platform that's built off of this core concept of, hey, communication goes on everywhere, and we're at the center of that. It really helps to consolidate the integrations into all these different applications, because it can really be treated as communication between systems, right? It's not so much communication between people, it's communication between systems. And having a integration platform that has communication and collaboration at the very foundational level, I think it really brings integrations back to square one and says, all right, what are we doing here, and how do we manage this in a central and simplified way?
It's interesting because I see it both ways. The communication between people for us is interesting because we believe that omnidirectional options should be there for support. And depending on your generation, your demographic, some people would prefer to pick up the phone and call someone. Some people would prefer to text. Some people want to use email. And as a company that offers managed services and professional services, we try to create multiple pathways, so that way our clients can reach out to us and collaborate with us and get some help in whatever way makes sense for them in their current situation. Sometimes it's situational. Maybe you're in a meeting and you can't obviously pick up the phone, but you might text with somebody and so on. So having all these different offerings and the integration capabilities, at least for us, is pretty significant. Some businesses may only want to have inbound communication in a certain way, or they're very focused on process. For us, the processes behind the scene and the communication with our customers is really important, that we try to make it as easy as possible. So that's been an interesting experience for us.
Yeah, so I guess just continuing on the theme of platforms, right? Because we're just discussing the core integration platform that really Star2Star provides for organizations looking at simplifying and optimizing those workflows, right? There's certain ways that these services can be consumed, right? We have all these integrated workflows, but where do they lie? Where are they consumed? What is the experience for the end user? And I think ultimately that comes down to what sort of productivity platforms are they using? What are the platforms? What are the technologies they're using to engage with those technologies, with those applications, with Microsoft Teams, with their contact center? And again, I just want to quickly call out this shift to the cloud, right? There's things like WVD, there's this, there's that, there's different ways of engaging with productivity technology applications. And so businesses, again, just leveraging this overarching trend, right? Businesses are turning to technology services as a way of reducing their costs, simplifying operations, and improving that productivity across their business, because there's more adaptability, there's more integration capabilities, right? There's better services being provided than having to source all the knowledge and the skills yourself in a what's progressively becoming a more competitive job market, right? So thinking about the platform that we use to deliver these types of integrated technologies is really important. And Forthright, you've been a Citrix partner for a long time. Star2Star, we've been a Citrix partner for the last couple of years, right? And we pride ourselves on this, this connected workspace, right? It's a connected workspace because not only is it a single platform where you consume your day-to-day applications and integrations, but again, it provides the foundation for integration across these different productivity tools, these different applications. And that's the benefit of a connected workspace, right? There's in-context collaboration and communication, whether it's voice services, whether it's video meetings, whether it's text, whether there's SMS. It can be consolidated onto a single platform that's ultimately delivered as a service. And again, leveraging this trend within cloud technology, where because it's delivered from the cloud, it's continuously innovative, and there's new features and new technologies coming out that you can leverage at the the flip of a switch, the click of a button, or the snap of your fingers. We can integrate technologies like artificial intelligence to prioritize certain things that might come across your desk, right? So say you get a missed call from a business partner versus get a call from this sales rep that you've been this potential customer that you've been trying to reach out to. What sort of intelligence is built in there to ultimately simplify and optimize that end user experience? So again, we incorporate these integration technologies into this single platform. And it provides contextual information, right? So if you are prioritizing certain things that are coming across your desk, whether it's a missed call or it's a certain email, being able to prioritize those tasks and integrate between those applications can help to really amplify the cost savings, the productivity gains, and ultimately the happiness of the end user, which just leads to even more productivity gains. But the last thing I sort of want to say about this productivity platform that is the foundation for the consumption of these integrations is it's really intelligent how we can achieve some of these things. So with our integration platform, typically there's like a one-to-one relationship with integrations, right? I want this system of record or this application to talk to this application. Our platform's really unique in that we have the ability to essentially store information in between speaking to those applications, and we can speak to multiple applications in a single workflow. So again, if we go back to the example of, say, making a PowerPoint presentation, we have to then go into our email and formulate an email, and then we have to pull in a video meeting. There's multiple applications, and it's not necessarily a linear relationship between the use of those applications. And our integration platform really has the ability to pull from all those different places and deliver it to you in this central, this central platform. So it's really special. We can integrate, really with any application that has an API, and it's delivered on this central platform, this connected workspace. And I really want to emphasize that connected aspect, because it's all about bringing different people together and bringing applications to the people when they need it, and to be as productive as possible. I appreciate that there's other concerns as it relates to IT, right? So we can integrate multiple applications, but what's the broader IT philosophy, right? What are some broader IT challenges that we can help to address rather than just the integration perspective, right? Because when we start talking about platforms, we're talking about a lot more fundamental to a broader IT strategy. How do we simplify IT? How do we optimize our security for secure data delivery? How do we modernize our desktops so that we can have users working from home as simply as we can have users working from an office space? How do we provide flexibility around where people people are doing their work, because, you know, as Steve and I were talking about just before, you know, we kicked this off, you know, everybody's starting work at like 8:30 and finishing at 6:30 sometimes now. We might need 3-day weekends, which I'm going to follow up with you on that, Steve, because I really like that idea.
8:30, that's a late day. Just depends on the industry you're in, right?
Yeah, I wanted to play it safe just in case some people started at 8:45. I didn't want to make them feel left out. But you know, there's broader, you know, IT considerations that need to be taken into consideration when evaluating technologies. And you know, the connected workspace outside of the realm of integrations helps to address some of those things as well. With simplified IT, you know, you can reduce your management load on all those applications that you're having to manage by leveraging, you know, 365, 24/7 support, you know, centralizing the deployment of policies, whether it's Microsoft policies, whether it's Citrix policies, whether it's access policies, from a central location, and you can consume it as a service as well. So, you know, that management and that, you know, single heart to hug, single throat to choke, you know, aspect starts to come in there. And, you know, when you start talking about security, hey, how do we you know, ensure that our contact center agents who are working from home, you know, they're not out there and losing our corporate data, even though they only have access to a portion of it. How, you know, how do we ensure we lock down all these different users for all these business units? How do we modernize and get away from investing in this infrastructure? A lot of those benefits are incorporated and really rolled up into this connected workspace that has all those productivity gains and operational efficiency gains that we've been talking about as a common theme throughout this. Really, you know, what we can provide along with Forthright and the services that they provide is a customized solution for your business. And I get that a lot of people might say that, right? A lot of organizations might say that. But when it comes to customizations, let's think back to the integrations and understand what your business processes are and find ways that we can help to automate and simplify those business processes, whether it's, you know, voice, whether it's contact center, whether it's collaborating through Microsoft Teams or TeamHub, whether it's, you know, communications platform as a service or really our integration platform, whether it's desktop as a service with that central platform for consuming all these integrations with all these, you know, additional managed services, security, and you know, reduced infrastructure costs. There, you know, it's a customized solution, but it's also a platform. It's a single place to shop. It's a one-stop shop, right, for your IT needs, whether it's simplifying or optimizing, you know, your IT strategy. And I think a good way to roll it up really is it is the connected workspace. The applications are connected, and it's the workspace that you go to your job. It's an integrated productivity platform. It can help with, you know, optimizing business processes, taking a look at, you know, what certain business units do to optimize their or what sort of standard functions they carry out. It can enhance the user experience, which ultimately increases the adoption of new technologies as they're rolled out, which only helps to accelerate the return on investment. And these things are provided as a service, right? So they're very straightforward in terms of rolling out. There's nothing you need on-prem or you know, there's no major networking overhaul that needs to go on. When they're provided as a service, it's a lot simpler to roll out and only accelerates your time to, you know, consume these, and it just amplifies your return on investment. And at the same time, right, with that central integration platform or, you know, a single place to, or a single place to stop to shop, single place to go, right, for all your Teams communications. You can manage everything within Teams if you're looping in voice, and ultimately you get centralized support as well. Working with Forthright, you know, you get a single place to you know, work with and you know, drive these technologies to the, you know, the limit in terms of getting the most bang for your buck, right? You get that centralized support and ensure that it's meeting the expectations. So Steve, I'll just I'll pass it back to you to see if there's, you know, there's anything you want to add or if there's anything that I missed. But for the most part, if there's any questions, happy to discuss.
No, I think you did a great job at kind of presenting this and the importance of not just integrating with an application, but having an integration platform that then you can manage your integrations from. You can manage your micro apps from. We didn't really talk about that, but I saw a screenshot up there, which is really important. And it all drives a better user experience. Kristen, I was wondering if there was any questions from the audience that maybe we can bring up.
How does this solution address ransomware in light of recent events?
So that's a really good question. I'm going to, I primarily spoke about security as it related to the connected platform, the productivity platform, right, which is more along the lines of connected workspace and desktop as a service. And the response to that is we have embedded technologies that are not only proactive in identifying security threats like ransomware and malware protection and software installed on all the virtual machines and things like that. Those technologies or those solutions or services have regularly updated signature profiles of common threats and attack surfaces. So, not only do we have a proactive perspective on, addressing security or ransomware threats, but we also have technologies in place that are able to quickly respond to a compromise and get your business back up and running from recent data backups, leveraging technologies like machine creation services, for example, to quickly respond to, compromised hardware or things like that. So certainly security is at the forefront of what everybody thinks about now, especially in light of recent occurrences. But you can ensure that we meet all the industry standard practices for having ransomware malware protections and response plans for those things as well.
And this specifically, I guess this is really focused for organizations that don't want to be rolling out software to individuals, BYOD devices or remote devices. So they're planning on using DAS to consolidate that workspace and create all the integration and the application deployments at that central place. Because obviously they're SaaS services, so you could install them and access these services from anywhere, but then you really can't control or optimize the user experience, right? Because everybody's going to set it up differently on their own machine, and then supporting them becomes more difficult. Where if you're leveraging DAS as a technology and you've got your suite of services bundled in there, every end user that starts their day is going to have a very consistent experience because it's been curated specifically for them. So that's interesting. Okay, what is the next question?
Can you hear me now? Sorry, I answered the whole question. Sorry. How do I move from an on-prem telephone system to a cloud-hosted model?
Oh, you should let me take this one.
Oh, you got it, Steve.
I love this one because we were there. And what's really interesting, it's a tough thing changing because, what if it doesn't work right? Or what if you make a mistake and, you need to tune something? And I can tell you that we took a very conservative approach. Obviously, you just go big bang and cut it over, but we had both running simultaneously. You can actually deploy this technology and take your time moving away from your old system. Or I've got some people that say, no, you know what, I can't get rid of my Avaya or my Cisco system. It has to stay. But I really want this functionality. And the truth is that you can have both. You can have these systems integrate where you build the new environment and you have calls forwarded over to the new phone numbers that are assigned to the new environment. And it's completely seamless to your end user or your customer when they're using it. I know that we ran both for a little while we were training our staff and kind of learning the new technology and figuring out how it was all going to work before we actually eliminated the old system. And we had the benefit to doing that. It's also nice if you've got specific use cases that are temporary in nature, or maybe they fluctuate a lot, where you might have a core set of users that are on your old platform and you still want the ability of transferring calls around. We can definitely help you configure it so this all works together in harmony, regardless of whether or not you're picking up what you have and getting rid of it, or you're using some kind of hybrid approach. It worked out very well for us. Jordan, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
The only thing I would add is that our solution's really over the top. It doesn't require any traditional telephony infrastructure. So you can run these systems in parallel to your traditional, analog technology if you're leveraging something like a VIA on-prem or something like that. So yeah, it's over the top. It runs over your Ethernet, your internet connection, your internet circuit. So it's very simple to run these things in parallel. And when you're ready to make the switch, you just make the switch. So.
Okay, the next question we have is, how is Star2Star different from the Ring Centrals and 8x8s of the world?
All right, I think I should take this one, Steve. Great question. And I think it really comes down to the fact that we own our own technology stack. And this is incredibly valuable, particularly when it comes to the ability to integrate with various systems of record. The ball is in our court and the court of the service provider to have open APIs and useful APIs, right, for whatever system we're trying to integrate with, to develop these integrations in accordance with both the market and also the specific and unique customer demands, right? So additionally, we have the highest customer retention rate in the industry, and that pays dividends to our organization just by being able to gather that market intelligence, see where the voice industry is going in terms of what the customers demand, and then being able to make the necessary changes to our core platform in accordance with that. Because after all, we own our own technology stack. And then that's only amplified by the fact that we have an integration platform as well. So as we see the needs of our customers evolving, we can change our core technology stack, and then we can also develop integrations to accommodate for those business processes.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. The question is, will I have to dedicate resources to learn the day-to-day management of these systems?
I can grab that one. I think that's a total choice, and I wouldn't imagine you'd have to dedicate anybody. Obviously, you have support that comes with StarStar. We've had exceptional support when we've needed it, although it's not very often. It's usually when I want to deploy some new piece of technology or some new option that we haven't tried yet, and we'd like to get someone to walk us through just to kind of understand, hey, what are the ramifications? Because again, I've got a couple of different ways I can deploy this, and here's my desired outcome. What's the best route for me to get there? And obviously, as a service provider, we also work with our clients, and we can take that load for you. Some customers will contact StarStar direct. Some will contact us, and we're always happy to help. But I don't believe any of our implementations actually have someone dedicated to this particular role. It's just not that complicated. That's the nice thing about all this.
Okay, great.
Hey, I actually just wanted to add one last thing that surprisingly slipped to my mind, and it comes down to the differentiator between us and the Ring Centrals and the 8x8s. I came from Citrix prior to joining Star2Star, and Star2Star is a Citrix partner. Forthright's obviously a huge Citrix partner, right? And I've come across multiple scenarios in my time at Citrix where we didn't have a VoIP service provider to provide services for our existing Citrix customers, right? And now, fortunately, and part of the reason why I joined, the Star2Star team is that whole landscape has changed, right? So Star2Star is, in fact, the only Citrix-ready service provider for VoIP communications. Now, you might say, hey, but there's Teams and there's this and there's that. We work both within a pure VDI environment as well as a hosted shared environment. So there's very unique aspects of our technology that doesn't lend one way or the other to, oh, I have this, so I have to go with that. When you are considering VoIP within Citrix, the best choice and the most diverse choice for what your deployment might require is Star2Star. We're compatible with hosted shared VDI, and we leverage a lot of the Citrix technologies to make that possible.
Yeah, I can definitely share my experience there because we've helped lots of customers, some more successful than others, at trying to get their particular voice over IP platform and soft client to work. Even the large ones like Avaya, there are certain pieces of functionality that doesn't work on like a shared hosted desktop. The fact that you guys are Citrix ready and the optimization for the audio just works is a big deal. It's really a big deal. We've struggled a lot with that over the years at trying to get something that works well and that's easy. We don't have those issues anymore. not with this platform.
Glad we could help.
Yeah, no, it's been fantastic. Definitely would suggest anybody who's interested, we could set up some demonstrations or talk more about this. Feel free to reach out to us, and we would welcome your questions and your thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's super easy. I don't have to use my desk phone anymore. I just, anywhere I am, even if I'm running an errand, someone calls my extension, it rings right on my cell phone, which is so convenient. So I really can work anywhere. It's nice.
Which,
Well,
by the way, that is different than forwarding a phone call, because if you forward the call to your cell phone, if you needed to retransfer that call to somebody else, you couldn't do it, right? And that, I think that's
Right.
something that it didn't occur to me when we first started deploying this, but as you start using it, you recognize that if you're using the telco functionality and it's integrated with the VoIP client or with Teams, you still have all the extension and routing capabilities with you when that call gets routed to you. Because most people are like, well, why can't I just forward it to my cell phone? Well, that's not necessarily the same thing, because at that point the call gets dropped off and you've lost any kind of control of routing. So it is nice to be able to loop in somebody else or transfer that call as needed, which I haven't seen any other solution that works this well. So it's worked quite nicely for us.
Yes, definitely. Okay, everyone, we'll be following up with you in the next few days, and you should see an email about lunch by the end of the day tomorrow. On behalf of the Forthright team and our featured sponsor, Star2Star, I'd like to thank you for your time this afternoon. Thank you, Steve and Jordan, for great information, and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Chris,
everyone.
thanks, Jordan. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Steve. Bye-bye.